Happy podcast day, Falcon Paladin.
Hello, Somicron. Happy podcast day to you as well.
Yes, it's a nice sun is out, complete blue skies, and it's
Yes.
freaking freezing. Tops of like 14 degrees Celsius for the entire day, which half my day is spent at like 1 a.m., which is like 7 degrees, so even half of that. It's lovely. Oh, God. It's so great. I love it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah, 1 a.m. generally known as one of the coldest times of the 24-hour period. So
It-
yes,
yeah,
indeed.
It's down there. Yep.
Although I do think the lows for my 24-hour period is like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. at this point. So
Yeah. It's
yeah,
coldest just before the dawn, I think, is technically how it goes.
I believe some cavemen figured that out like 50,000 years ago. So we're
Oh, yeah.
just following in their footsteps, their genius
Yeah.
footsteps. Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, it's a Monday because you're going on holidays, aren't you? You're sick of this podcast. You need a holiday, a vacation from it, and probably your real job as well.
I mean, if I was going to take a vacation from the podcast, I would have just said I'm not available for the podcast this week. But yes, yeah, real job, yes.
Fair. It's probably slightly more taxing than this. Slightly
I
more
mean,
full
I don't
time.
get to talk about Warhammer nearly as much at work, so yes, that is true.
Not nearly enough implies some.
Yeah, I do have a couple of coworkers that are into Warhammer, so
Oh,
sometimes
okay.
conversations do come up.
Do you flex all of your knowledge now that you've read like 24 books?
You know, it's weird because I do think I am surpassing a couple of my coworkers on Warhammer knowledge at this point.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I mean, 2 years ago, I got nothing. They would tell me something, and I'm like, oh, yes, Warhammer, of course. I had no context, didn't know anything. They're like, it's great. Now I think I know more than those guys. So,
That's wow.
how did that happen?
That's incredible.
Lots and lots of reading. Lots and lots of reading.
That'll do it.
But before we get there, we do have some StarCraft to talk about,
We
I
have
suppose.
a little bit of StarCraft to cover, yes. Primarily, Esports World Cup 2024. Still not happening. Still like a month out. But we have groups ready to be played.
We do. Got Group A and Group B.
Now, these are done by seeding. So, best players versus worst players is kind of how that goes out.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
And you know, there are some kind of probably walkovers here, but I think most of these are pretty good matches, honestly.
there's definitely a couple of walkovers, as you said. One in particular in Group B, I think. But the rest, Oliveira versus Bjorn, that could go either way, in my opinion.
I mean, Oliver won a WCS World Championship, so yeah, absolutely. It is TBT, which is kind of a garbage matchup, but you know.
Did he win a WCS?
Is that what it was?
No.
Okay.
I
What
don't-
did he win? Katowice?
Katowice. I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which function? Okay, we had this discussion a million times before.
Yeah, we've definitely
Okay,
had
so I'm
this.
not going to worry about it.
Okay.
He had this super huge, impressive premier win.
Yes.
It was great. He's
He-
capable of defeating Beyond. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
done.
I will be pedantic in my own time.
Excellent.
Yeah, he's totally doable. Gumiho Australia, honestly, could go either way. Australia can kind of pull out some wonky stuff that I think. I mean, wonky stuff against Gumiho is kind of his domain as well. But wonky stuff leads to wonky results, and he could totally do it. Hero Marine Dark, non-zero chance for Hero Marine, but Dark is a monster and just won a GSL, so it's unlikely.
That's the thing. Dark has reached monster status, and Hero Marine is at haven't won a premier tournament status.
Right, but he's always been like top 10 of like any group, any tournament that he plays in. He's still going deep in playoffs usually, is how I feel.
I know.
Like,
It's like Solar range, right?
yeah.
And Solar
yeah.
did win his.
He's EU Solar.
Well, except Solar has won one, so he's not even Solar at this point.
True.
So, like, ooh, that's a good question. Who's the Korean Hero Marine at this point? Because, yeah, you're right. I mean, he's third, fourth, in all these premier tournaments. He is right there.
Yeah.
But no ones.
When was the last time he did, like, win something? He's never
Well,
won something.
GSL versus the world, he got first place in that, but that's a team thing. That doesn't matter.
Well, I'm looking on the Premier Tournaments, like, timeline that Liquipedia will have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing no golds. Like, not even for a GSL, a team league.
2019 August, GSL versus the world. Teams competition. Team Dark versus Team Serral.
Okay.
And whoever team he was on, he won, but like...
Sure, but it doesn't show up here, is the thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't,
Yeah,
that doesn't count because, like, his team won, not he won.
Yep.
And, like,
No, that's why I don't count it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the best he's done, I think, is like a third place. There might be a second in here somewhere.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
No second?
Nope. I've got it sorted by premier tournaments that he's been in. He's never gotten a second place in any of these.
Oh, he is... He's like Su.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Su's always coming in second, or did for forever.
Correct.
Right, but this guy's always coming in third. He's suing Su.
Yeah. So, like...
EU Su. Oh, that too easily translates to EU so. Well, yeah, it's Marine. He's so. I don't like this train of thought. I have more faith in Marine than this.
I don't. I think he's great. He's way better at StarCraft than 99.9999% of people that play.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he doesn't do it.
These are
now
best of threes, best of fives. Best of three. So I'm just gonna see what Legolex says, which it'll obviously be dark, heavily favored, but I don't think it'll be more than 60%. Maybe. Please. Dark 67%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, the inverse of that is actually 32%. That sounds way worse in my head. But okay, yeah. I'm rooting for you, Hero Marine.
Yeah, I think Hero Marine would do fine against Gumio, Estrella, Beyond, Oliveira, Spirit. Like, yes. Mm-hmm. But Dark is in monster category. There are like 3 people in the world who are monster category, and Dark is one of them.
Right.
So, sorry, Hero Marine, we love you.
He also just won his GSL against Maru, who is undoubtedly one of the scariest Terrans at the moment, probably the scariest Terran, and Hero Marine is also Terran, so, it's maybe bad. But fortunately, it is, there's a lower bracket that he can drop down to and can still kind of eke through.
Right, that's always nice. Lower brackets are fun.
Yeah, which, I mean, now that I'm looking at it, Group A is, 6 Terrans and 1 Protoss, 1 Zerg. There's so many TVTs that are going to be played.
Gross.
Yeah, that's...
Well, hopefully they end fast, at least.
I mean, TVTs are better than ZVZs. I think we've had this discussion before as well.
Yes, just because of the variation. TVTs, the first 10 minutes of the game can get weird. Mm-hmm. And the first 10 minutes of a ZVZ, the weirdest you can get is like pull the boys, throw down spine crawlers in the enemy's main. That's it. That's the limit of weirdness. You can't really do anything else,
Right. I mean, if you get past there, you can from there, like, muters and all sorts of options and people who decide to go ultras. Serral.
Yeah. Not recently, but
it it happens, but you got to get there. Anyway.
Right. But I just mean there's not, like, so many Terran units are viable in the first 10 minutes of TVT. It's not true for ZVZ, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference. So that's all.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway, Group B.
Serral and Coffee.
Dude, it's got to be Coffee for that one, right?
I mean, he's been playing so well recently. He has won something, probably.
He's the best player in his house. What
Check
do
it.
what do you think a Ligalax prediction? 90? You thinking 90? It's gotta be
Is it worse?
98.99. It gives Coffee a 1.01% chance to win.
Wow. And like, to be fair, I think that says more about Cyril than it does about Coffee.
Possibly, I don't know. Because like Cyril qualified for this tournament 3 times over with like
Yes.
winning tournaments. Coffee got from EPT standings in Asia, which means he only got here basically due to a lack of other viable players. It was like Oliveira, then Coffee, and then like who else? Cyan, Firefly, Nice. These are all players that are kind of there, but not really. Like
Nope.
looking at the EPT points, the difference between Coffee and Cyan was 15 points out of like the 800 that they both roughly had.
Yeah, that's not great.
You know, it's interesting. I just realized Haz is still playing. I thought he retired.
What?
He's
Me too.
He's 7th in EPT rankings for Asia. Why is Haz not playing well? Well, I mean, why is he not scoring EPT points and making it to a tournament like this anymore? Like, what happened? What happened, Haz?
I don't know. They fixed the Oracle, and he was like, "Aw."
Maybe.
Like 2015, he's murdering everybody with a actually literally broken Oracle, and that was it. They fixed it, and he's like, "That's all I got."
Yeah.
No, I mean he did better after that, but like,
Yeah. It's just Haz is like the player who, has very unconventional builds, but still managed to like hang with the top. Even though he shouldn't. Everyone kind of recognizes that like in a best of 7, he does not have enough to fool a Dark or a Maru, 7 times, right?
nope, correct.
Let alone getting through the bracket to get to a finals with them, right? But he for a while he was always like there though, like getting places, and now he's not even qualifying for like not just this, but for anything. I haven't seen a game from him in forever, and that is so sad.
That is true. He's been doing a lot of. I mean, he's been trying. No, nothing in the last couple of years though. He has a won anything in 2023 and nothing in 2024. It's a World Team League that he participated in 2023 February. So I mean, it's been a long time since he's gotten any kind of a result on Wikipedia at all.
Yeah. Man, I miss his game so much.
Me too, because he was always doing weird stuff, man.
Well, that has ruined my day, knowing I haven't seen a Haz game in like 3 years.
Yeah, I really don't expect him to make any kind of a comeback, but
No, neither do I, but I'd like to. I believe. I have hope.
I mean, he got 2-0'd by Firefly
Oof.
in April.
Oof.
He got 2-1 by Cyan in April.
Yeah.
He got 2-0'd by Nice. This is where we are with us. Not good. It's not good.
No. Anyway, the rest of this bracket, Hero Solar, pretty even.
Good, great stuff. I'm gonna watch that.
Yep. Cure Rainer.
Cure Rainer. So this is one of the matchups where it's not as much what they're both bringing into it resume-wise. These two players amp each other up to levels I love so much. The ZVTs with these guys are as good as any ZVT in all of StarCraft 2. They're as good as Dark Maru. They're as good as, Cyril Maru. Like, they are everywhere. They are both playing as hard as they can. They are scrapping. They are clawing. It's great.
Oh, undoubtedly.
So,
yeah.
really, really, really excited for that.
Same. And then Classic Clem.
Yep.
Which I was just going to say, it really made me feel like that was an energy drink or something. Like, now you can get Classic Clam and Diet Clam. But I don't know why. That just popped in my head. Maybe it's because I had a an actual Coke yesterday, and it's just been so long since I've had classic Coke,
Oh,
and it's just stuck in my head, you know.
yeah.
Anyway,
Makes sense. Classic Clem.
classic Clem.
Yeah, that should be fun. Classic's playing pretty well recently. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's favored there. What's a Ligilac say about Classic Clem?
Let's have a look. See, classic Clem available in a convenience store near you. Show me the future. It gives it to Clem, 71%.
Yeah, that's probably where I'd put my money if I had to. But I
Yeah.
do think Classic's playing pretty well.
Yeah, I think that'll
mean,
be closer than a Galactic suggests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm just biased because I watched him Resonating Glaive Adept all in Sue 4 times in a row at the most recent Soup Live tournament.
Right,
I'm like, Classic is a genius.
Are those
But I think that says more about Sue.
maybe? Are those VODs anywhere? Do they get posted to YouTube?
Yeah, generally Laughing Games will toss him up on his YouTube channel. I don't know if he has yet.
His YouTube, okay.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if he's done that since we've gone to Soup Live. I don't know if he can export that way. But let me see if... Oh, yeah. The VODs are up on his channel. So let me toss that into the chat there and toss it into our chat.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So it's going to be... Yep. StarCraft Global 3. And it's just the final best of 7. And... I mean, like, the first time it happens, again, we're like, okay, yep, this can still happen. Zerg players caught off guard, like, oh, Resonating Glaive Adepts, I forgot about those. Crap, blah, and they die.
Right.
And then the second time, you're like, well, maybe Sue just needs to adjust to how to handle those. It's been a while. It's
Yeah.
fine.
That's
And the third one happens, and you're like,
Come on, man.
and then the fourth game, you're like, Classic can't do this again. He can't possibly do this again.
Because that's like the power of a build nobody sees in a while. If you can pull it out and like they haven't prepared against it in forever, because you go, who's doing Resonating Glaive all-ins, you know?
Yeah.
You should get a game. A game.
I mean,
not
a
four.
right.
I was kind of watching those games while I was in Discord chat with a bunch of friends. And I was just looking over and seeing that Sue had lost like 45 workers on the overlay that would pop up and keep track of like worker deaths.
Game hard interface, yeah.
But for that to stay up there, it has to be within a short period of time. Like you can chain it to string it along, but like kind of.
It has to go about, I would say, 15 seconds between last drone kill in order to chain to the next one.
Right, but it's not counting 45 from game start, you know? That's my point. And
exactly.
I was like, oh my god, how is Sue still in this game? He's lost 45 drones to these Glaive Adepts that are shading all over the place. And then I looked at the worker count. It was still only 65 to 50. Like, he had killed his entire drone count, had it rebuilt, all while surviving the attack. I'm like, huh.
Zerg, man. So, again, the problem with Zerg, though, is that, yeah, you can do that, but then you don't have an army, and then the follow-up kills you, and that's exactly what would happen.
Right. But
like, it was Groundhog Day. Classic would come in with some oracles, zap, zap. Couple adepts would get a couple kills, Resonating Glaive Adepts would show up. Sue would be entirely unprepared. Everything dies. Back home, Classic has a third base. He's building immortals and sentries because he's like, all Sue's going to do here is build roaches.
Right.
And you know what's really great against roaches? Immortal Sentry.
Yeah.
Like, Heart of the Swarm stuff, man. It's absolutely incredible.
Oh, it's wild.
So, yeah. And one of the times it got to that point, one of the times, Classic had to walk across the map with his immortals and sentries, and Sue went, oh. But the other times he just tapped out because the economy was garbage.
Right.
Oh. Anyway, yeah, so that fourth game, sixth game, Classic's fourth win rolls around, and I'm like, you can't He can't do this
He
again.
can't keep getting away with this.
He can't. And then, bam, production tab goes, Resonating Glaze gets fired up, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyway, the link's available if you want it.
Thank you.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Anywho, Classic and Clem. So yeah, Classic did really well against Sue. But Clem's a different monster, and not just because he plays Darren.
I mean, if he goes like Phoenix Adept against Clem, I will be.
He's like, wait, why are my adepts two-shotting these Marines? What is this garbage? He just like fell down the stairs and he got selective amnesia and only remembers what the game was like in 2015.
Yeah, it's like it's 2016, right, guys? Wild.
So it'll be fun. I'm excited for this. Let's go. I mean, it's a month later, but you know.
It's a month. We got a month to wait, and a whole lot of nothing happening between now and then either. Everyone's just like,
yeah,
no tournament.
Vacation time.
Yeah, I suppose. Who vacations in the winter? Wild.
North Americans?
But you're vacationing now. That's not winter.
Sure is. The winteriest of winter.
Sure. Anyway.
Sure, indeed.
What do you want to talk about next? We got 2 more things, I think, that we've like planned to chat about.
There's 2 more things to talk about?
Yeah, one's the Warhammer.
Yeah.
And the other one's another.
Oh, another. Sorry, I finished watching that like 4 days ago. My brain's like, I don't remember anything that happened 4 days ago.
Right. Do you want to stop and rewatch the entire thing? We'll pick it up next week.
Yeah, let me take a break real quick. I'll be right back. Let's go another.
Another? Okay.
Yeah, we wrap up with Warhammer, I think, traditionally, so.
Yeah. So another is a anime that came out in 2012. So it is.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the style, like the animation style and the drawing, that makes sense. Okay, 2012, but set in
1999, 1998.
somewhere 8.
Yeah. Yes. And it is a supernatural thriller mystery. Kind of the best way to
100%.
describe it, which is interesting because a lot of things when you say supernatural, I think it like pairs very well with like supernatural fantasy or supernatural sci-fi, and you expect grand supernatural things like, oh, it's supernatural, there are ghosts everywhere, or there are like it's something that's very baked into the setting. This is subtle supernatural where you go, is it supernatural? Like a lot of this stuff could just happen on its own. Not all of it, and certainly not like some of the stuff at the end, but a lot of it is, I don't know, circumspect, that you just have to believe, like you have to buy in that a lot of the characters believe that they're cursed, basically. There's this thing called the Calamity, and you could go a lot of the things that happen, all the deaths that are slowly killing these students, are just accidents. Like it's not like a ghost comes out and snaps people's necks or possesses them and does stuff. It's just accidents.
So every single death, not most of them, all of them are accidents. There's nobody who was in their bedroom studying and then they're dead and there's no sign of what happened. Like it's clearly they fell down the stairs or they got crushed by a backhoe on the back of a truck that someone's parking brake didn't stay on.
Right.
Or they got chopped up by a boat propeller in the water. Like, it's all accidents that you can easily explain away as accidents. The elevator failed, right? Yeah. So it's a smart thing about the show, I would say. So bottom line, as near as I was able to gather from the story here, there was a class in the
70s?
early 90s, in the 70s, like even earlier.
Yeah, they mentioned like a class like 25 years ago.
Oh, that's right.
This thing,
yeah, so like in the 70s, there was this really well-liked student in the class, and they got along with everyone, and they were super popular, and then they died in an accident. And the class, weirdos that they were, collectively decided that, no.
She's right there. She's just sat right there. Everyone can still see her. Like, we can't cope with the fact that she's dead, so we're just gonna pretend she's still there.
We're just going to be in denial about this until the end of the year.
Right.
At which point, they have a class photo at the end of the year, and dead student is in there.
Dead student shows up.
So that's fun.
And then
So, yeah, so as far as the people can gather, this begins a series where there's a curse on this class now.
and every year since, at some point there will be an extra student who shows up. Like, they'll go to class and be like, "Hey, we're short a desk," because a person who was dead has come back to life, and reality has shifted so that everyone just goes, "Yeah, I remember that person. They've always been here," and like they have friends and families and a house to live in, and slowly the calamity unfolds, killing every single person in the class.
No, it's not. It's never every person, but it's always like 7 to 8 to 10 to 12, kind of somewhere in that range.
It's a lot, but given the casualty rate of this class, I feel like it could be a lot higher than it's ever been.
Yeah, but they were talking to librarian guy, and like he's been keeping records of this, and I think
Right.
he was pretty much like 7, 8.
Right.
This class, for reasons we'll get into, has more than 8. But
Yeah, it hits 8 in a
Yeah.
day. Yeah. Yeah, and so through basically trial and error, the class, every year it's the same class, and they slowly start to, like, I don't know, believe that there's a curse, and they develop a charm, which is to select a student and just pretend they're dead. You can't see them, you don't talk to them, you don't interact. And the teachers go, "Yep, this has a somewhat successful, a success rate." And they buy in and they do their best to cooperate with this.
right, and what's annoying is it's not 100% success rate. It just
Right.
kind of seems like it helps. Which is like the rules of this curse are brutal, man. Like trying to figure out what's going on here is really mean.
Which, makes sense when all you're dealing with is like in theory, a series of unfortunate accidents. How do you test against that,
Right?
Right.
And it's just like all you can do is look at statistically how many kids in any given 9th grade class are going to die in an accident in Japan. And then you're like, oh, we're way up here. We are outliers, man.
Right.
Like maybe less than one kid per class every year has this accidental death, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it's not even just the kids. It opens up to their families can get injured, and
Right.
killed and stuff. Yeah.
which makes the statistical probability higher. Because, like, yeah, I knew kids that I grew up with. A couple of them died. Maybe 5 or 6 more of them had family members who died just because it opens up the whole pot.
Right.
You have the entire family is now involved in this thing.
They do say that, like, historically, that it only affects people who stay in the town during the year.
Right.
So if you are in the 9th grade class and your family leaves town, they're presumably safe.
Right. I mean, let's be honest. If it's this believed that this class is cursed like this, how are they fully staffing this class? Like, how is just not like everybody when their kid turns 15 or whatever, they just leave. They just bail. They move to another town and call
Yeah.
it a day. Maybe
Honest-
they'll come back in 10th grade, but like,
You see, here's the weird thing. They do expressly say that they've tried, the school as an organization have tried things to prevent this. They've closed the original classroom. They've changed the label of the school from, like, because there's 5 classes. There's A, B, C, D, and E, and they've gone, okay, now it's 9-3 instead, or 9-6, and that hasn't helped. Always whatever that class would have been has still, like, it's still manifested. So I'm wondering if these students were to, like, I don't know, they're in the 8th grade, and then they are, okay, for the 9th, we're just going to a different school. But all those students who would have made up that 3rd class still have the curse, but be spread across this other school or the other schools in nearby areas.
Right. So that would test the hypothesis of if you stay in town, the curse is in effect.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's following the kids to the schools outside of town, then all right, you're not safe anywhere, and screw it, you might as well stay, right?
Right. Right.
But nobody says that. Like nobody's like everybody believes if you leave town, you're cool, right?
Mm. Mm.
But yeah, I just feel like in 25 years, eventually, after the third consecutive year of higher than average accidental deaths
In this class.
involving family and students and teachers in this class, the
Mm.
next year, like if it was my kid, I'd be like, hell no, you're not going to this school. We are leaving, man. We are going somewhere else. I don't care if I have to change jobs. Like, we are getting out of here.
I wonder how much of the parents in the show, their unwillingness to like just pick up and move is rooted in like a Japanese context that we're just not aware of. Like the Sakibara-kun, the Koichi, the main protagonist, his dad like lives in India and works from India. Like how many of these people don't really just have the means to pick up and leave, you know, this small little town. And like,
Yep.
I have no idea what the Japanese economy was like in 1998, but I'm wondering if there's some like history there that really kind of prevents a lot of people from actually doing that.
Again, I understand economic realities. I would sell my grandmother's jewelry if it meant I could get out of this town.
Right.
Like, I would pull out every single stop.
Again, Western perspective versus theirs, but like I get it. I
just if I had to walk, like
but-
I'm just saying.
yeah, no, I'm getting that, but I'm just wondering if there's something fundamental there that makes more sense in a cultural context that like they get that we don't. Because obviously I'd be like, just fucking leave, right? But they don't. There needs to be a reason why they don't, other than well, the plot has to happen, you know.
To be honest, there's a lot of the plot has to happen in this show. It's not like the tightest plot of all time. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, I guess. A lot of it is the plot has to happen, but at the same time, a lot of the reasons why the plot happens is because the plot was happening, you know? And specifically, they designate this Misaki girl to be the dead girl in the class. Nobody talks to her, but they don't tell the new kid that in time, because how do you convince someone day one of, here's a curse, you have to believe in it, don't look at this person? Like, any outsider from Tokyo would just go, you're a fucking lunatic. You know?
But it's Japan. Like, conformity is rule number one there. And he's a new kid in class. The teacher tells him, you and all of the students, all of your classmates are going to ignore this girl with all of your heart for all of the year. And he goes, yes, sir, I'm on it.
Right.
Right?
Maybe. I mean, there is definitely, like, his aunt, I guess, who he, like, lives with his grandparents. It tells him you have to, like, one of the biggest changes that you're going to get from, you know, your Tokyo high school that you've just left to this rural town one is you have to follow the class rules. And she doesn't go into specifics, but she really stresses that follow the class rules. And what she's really implying there is someone in the class is going to be designated dead and you have to follow those rules as well. But nobody ever really stops to tell him that.
Right, which is another example of the plot has to happen. I'm just saying, they could have sat him down with the teacher and with the leaders of the class and said, look, I know this is weird. Do this thing. That's it.
I don't know. I don't feel like that really sticks. Because, again, you have to also convince him, like, of the supernatural element. And I think that's very hard to do, just in abstract. Like, I get that there's a lot of, like, the conformist culture, like, everyone just follows the rules. But a lot of that stuff manifests in, you know, crossing the street when the light says you can, and don't walk and eat with your food because it spreads trash, you know? A lot of practical reasons that you can go, oh yeah, I understand the effects of those. Not, well, we might be cursed.
Yeah, but I mean, growing up as a kid, you don't get those reasons a lot of the time, right?
True.
You're told to do something, you don't get why, but you eventually are trained to do it anyway. I think everyone has that programming in them at some level that, hey, a person in authority and everybody around me, that's important too. All of my classmates, they all told me to do this thing. They're doing this thing. And yeah, it would take an exceptional individual to break at that point and break those rules and risk bringing down the wrath of the teacher and all of their classmates upon them to do this thing.
Well, that's kind of the weird thing is they're all trying to avoid mentioning or interacting with this Misaki girl. And so
Yeah.
by even confronting him doing it, they're inadvertently doing it themselves. Like they can't recognize that she's alive if they tell him to stop it either, right? That's like, oh, there's a woman that we're all ignoring. You're then admitting that you know she's there.
Yeah, that's a good point. You would be implicitly doing that.
Right. So you kind of need him to like pick it up on his own. You need to find a way to say it without saying it.
Yeah, and you'd think this question would have come up sometime in the last 25 years. This is not the first time a transfer student has shown up at the school, you know?
I mean, that's the weird thing. It might be the first time that the school's ever put a transfer student into 9C, which why would you ever do that?
Right. Dump him in another class. There's no way you're going to overburden that teacher with this one kid.
Right. Which I actually had a thought that I don't think it gets mentioned. I don't think there's any like evidence in it because the last 2 episodes, it's just like hell let loose, right? But this kid is basically invulnerable. And so I'm wondering if he's a transfer student, he's not actually affected by the calamity at all, right? Him personally isn't at risk because he outlives a lot when he really shouldn't, you know?
Sure, but protagonist plot armor explains a lot of that too.
I suppose. But like, I'm just wondering if
Yeah,
as a transfer, it's not actually on him.
I like that theory. But back to the transfer concept. What if this year there were like 20 transfer kids into the school and they put them all in the other class and they're like
Right.
crammed to the gills and they're like, we don't want to, but we literally cannot take this kid.
Yeah, no. That
That would be so funny. They're
Yeah.
walking down the hallway and this other class kids are like slammed up against the windows. There's so many kids in there.
yeah, no, that would be great.
They're like, we tried our best.
Yeah. Oh.
So yeah, so those are the rules.
I think there's definitely like 2 halves to the show. The one where it's the mystery of like you can't talk to the girl, but he is talking to her anyway, and he's like not following her, but sees her go into like this creepy doll shop, and
The first time they meet,
the first time they meet,
I think that's important.
on
He's
the
at the
roof.
hospital because he has a
Oh,
lung
right.
issue.
Yes. So again, the show sets up that like the curse is like bringing back dead people really well because she's at the hospital and he's at the hospital having maybe just died from a collapsed lung, and so the other students might think he's dead.
Yeah.
And she's
And does she get in or did he get in?
in what?
The elevator.
Oh, he gets. I don't remember.
I don't either.
Because he like turns around and suddenly she's there.
Yeah. She's got this eye patch on. She's holding this doll in one hand, just like dropped to her side. Her head's down. And I'm like, Ghost! Super Ghost! She is ghost coded.
Right.
She's 100% ghost coded.
Uh-huh.
And like he tries to engage her in conversation and she's not really interested in talking all that much.
No.
And then they get down to the basement and she's like, peace, bye. And she wanders into the darkness. And it's like, that's where the morgue is, according to the signs. And I'm like, all right.
That is a ghost. Like
Ghost.
Ghost. And he eventually like sees her at school and everyone's ignoring her. He follows her into like this creepy doll shop, and like the lady working the register is like, there are no other guests in the building. Please enjoy yourself. If you're a student, it's half price. There are no one else here. And then he goes and he explores the entire thing and he's like, there's nobody else here. And then she pops up and it's like, did the old lady not know she's here? Is she actually There's a really real tension that this kid is talking to a ghost that only he can see for a few episodes. And it's good. I like that.
It is good. It's tricky. They're really trying to screw with the viewer, and I think they succeed pretty well.
Yeah.
I love there's a point too where they're talking about it, and does she ask him? She says something. She like confirms that he's not dead or she's not dead. What does she say?
Mm, which time? Because they spend a lot of time talking together.
The first time it comes up.
Are you like? Is she worried? Like, oh, do you think you're the dead one? Well, after
Yeah.
he knows, and she goes, no, you're not dead. I just know. She doesn't really give a reason because
And
she
right.
she has a magic eye, which is also very hard to describe and then explain to someone.
Yeah.
But, so
Well, but
she
right, but then the implication is I know you're not dead, and the unsaid thing that I'm assuming is it's because I know that I'm the dead one,
right.
right?
There is kind of that, yeah.
I was like, oh no.
Right, and like that comes back in like the latter half of the season, the series where she knows he's not dead because she knows who is dead, and that's like
Right.
it's an interesting piece because like I think either viewer could have put that together if I really thought about it, but it's definitely coded that you're supposed to go, no, she's dead. She knows who's dead because it's freaking her, and she actually knows.
Yeah, it's red herring. Like they super send you down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also as far as the supernatural goes, that's an interesting one too because she's like, I had my eye removed when I was younger, and like my mom's this doll maker, and she got me a doll eye to replace the one because she said it was better than the fake eyes they were offering. But then she covers it up with an eye patch the whole time.
Yeah, because it's still a doll's eye, and it would unsettle other kids. I think is like
And especially because it's green.
green, right?
Like,
But
why did you give your kid a different color eye for her second one? Like,
right,
heterochromia is cool, but like, let's not make her stand out. She lost an eye.
her other eye is red. Like her natural
Yes.
eye is red. So I'm assuming this show is just doing the thing where unusual colors are just normal here. Like the character with
Right.
pink hair is just pink hair is normal. It's fine. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
Nobody ever is like, and Mikasi has red eyes. That means she's bad. Nobody even thinks that. Because because it's anime and because different color eyes and hair.
But nobody else has red eyes in the entire show.
I know. So you'd think one of the kids in class who thinks she's a demon would say that. Nope.
Right.
Nobody does. So like just give her another red doll's eye.
Yep.
And call it good. Like why are we doing this?
She could just tell people
doesn't make
she's
any
got a
sense.
lazy eye because when it doesn't track,
Right. That's a problem. But then the other thing is she says that when she uses her doll's eye, when she uncovers it, she can see through it, which sure lady. And she can see a color on people who are dead or approaching death or about to die.
Right.
And she can't describe the color, but it's the color of death.
Death. Right.
Yeah. But we don't know that's true.
No, I mean by the end, I think we do.
Do we?
Yeah, I think so. Because she
Yeah.
accurately knows who's dead, right? Like she knows.
I mean, after like 13 other people have died, like, process of elimination, maybe.
maybe.
There weren't many people left. But yeah, the show does give us some evidence that she's telling the truth about that.
I mean,
Anyway.
we also do literally see from her perspectives at like one point and at a couple points. I think when she's looking at the photograph, she uncovers her eye, and like we get her perspective that yes, there's like a miasmic haze around the dead person in the photo. So
Sure.
we're definitely, I think, expected to just believe that yeah, for whatever reason, she can see the dead.
This doll's eye is magic because this is the world that we've created.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the way that they really explain like what the calamity is that the belief that the dead girl was still there just like thinned the veil and let the dead through slightly more in this area. And so the ways in which that manifests is like a girl with a dead twin sister who had her, eye cancerous and die. Sure, Like that's fine. Okay, dead came through. She got the vision to see the dead. I'm fine with it. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
It
No, the world is definitely okay with supernatural stuff. Like to me, maybe the biggest supernatural thing in the show is this whole concept that there's a dead person in the class every year that nobody recognizes
Yes.
as a dead person. Nobody's like, we haven't. This person wasn't in class last year.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's cool with it, and then at the end of the year, that person disappears, and everyone's like, "Holy
Holy.
shit, that
It
was a
was
dead
them.
person!" It's like, what is this magic? What is altering everybody's memories to this extent for an
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
year?
Yeah.
It's it's not even like a malevolent thing. It's like a Loki god of mischief kind of thing on that level. I
Kind
mean,
of.
people die,
The,
so like it's not
right. It's
that,
not.
but the memory alteration stuff just to reveal the trick at the end of every year is very grandstanding.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, yeah. I don't know. It's like
Yeah.
it's also capable of altering the school records, so it's capable of filing paperwork, which, sure.
It's not really a trickster god thing to like worry about class rosters, but like, all right.
Right. Well, it has to, otherwise it would get caught. Like, I feel like I feel like there's like 3 episodes there where they have to explain that, like, yes, the school records also get altered. Otherwise, they'd have solved it halfway through. You know?
Right. Somebody would have checked the class roll at some point and been like, hey, this guy's not on here. Bam, problem solved.
Right. But like, I wonder how much of like the ghost is someone who's died in the area or in the school. I don't know. It's not clear already. Is because that they need to be able to fabricate like a place where that person lives, and it's like, okay, if we just invented a new ghost every year, and then we fabricated the record so that it lived at the abandoned building down the road, I feel like that would also be obvious. So it has to be a person, because you can then like that people might recognize or know, because you have to insert them somewhere. Like they can't fabricate the entire family either.
Right. Right. It's a ton of work. Like this ghost or malevolent spirit is like working their ass off all the time. I don't know. Like that's my thing too. If you just wanted the death, just arrange the accidents. Like you didn't need to have all this other stuff about a dead kid in the class and altering the records and changing everyone's memory. Like what's important to whatever is in charge of this calamity that they have to do it that way, you know?
Well, that's the thing. I think they very clearly call it a calamity rather than an entity. It's like it's an earthquake. It doesn't really want anything. It just does. The
This is
barrier
just how it works.
the barrier between life and death thinned, and all of a sudden the accident mortality rate goes up a tick, and the ghost person that's in the classroom isn't actually related, I think, to the deaths, other than the fact that if you kill them, the death stops, apparently, right?
Well,
But
maybe, sure.
I feel like that's just the way it feels like, because the dead person thinks they're alive. They don't want the deaths. They're not feeding off it. This isn't an episode of Supernatural where Shammy and Dean pull out their guns and rock salt and banish it.
Right.
So I don't think the deaths. I don't think there's like a need or a drive or a want. It's just a thing that happens, which is kind of scarier in a lot of ways, because how do you figure that out? I mean,
It's
they
a
did.
primal force. It's a
Yeah.
tsunami or a tornado or a hurricane. Or something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, so effectively some years the calamity doesn't happen. They're not sure why.
Right.
And they're hoping this year is going to be a year it doesn't happen.
But it
And
does.
Yeah, everything's great until Transfer Kid shows up.
Who is an extra
And
student
then-
in the class, and so they were all kind of worried about him.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, the lore is you don't know.
Oh,
You don't
right.
know it's an extra student. So like the fact that you know he's an extra student kind of makes him super innocent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I still don't have this answered. What's her face redhead girl in their class?
The chairman of countermeasures or whatever.
Nope.
No?
The one who dies first.
The one who dies first.
Does she have red hair?
I don't
Am I
remember who died
misremembering her? She's
first.
got the Umbrella Girl.
Oh, the Umbrella. Yeah, Umbrella Girl. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Umbrella Girl. She is leaving class, turns the corner, sees our protagonist talking to Mikasi, and freaks the hell out.
Yes.
Not like, you're not supposed to be doing this, you're killing us all, you fool. It's abject horror, turn and flee.
Yes.
Why?
Because, do you know why she was leaving the classroom? Like, did you...
Mm,
A runner
'cause-
came and said her parents had died in a car crash, and she thinks the calamity is starting and sees the guy talking to the student who might be dead, who is their designated do not talk to this person. Like, she goes, oh, you're fucking up the calamity, and I'm on the way to just find out if my parents died in a car crash by accident or by calamity. That's
Right,
there's a
but I think that's still, how dare you? You killed my parents, not I just came face to face with Dracula. It's a different thing, you know?
I don't think her response is outside the bounds of credibility for her. Like,
It's
I
not
was fine with it.
credibility. It's I just don't understand why she's doing it.
Why
Which I
she
guess
gets
is this.
why she gets scared at the realization that her entire life is at risk.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, then she runs, goes down the other stairwell, trips, and impales herself, I think through her mouth, out the back of her head with her umbrella. Which is
Yeah.
like, they don't make umbrellas like that anymore. That is a tough umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and this show is very into lingering upon someone very close to death. Not quite there yet, twitching a little bit, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we get that. And so that's the first one.
Well, that's
So
the
anyway.
thing. It's not actually the first one. Like, that's what we're led to believe the first one is, and everyone thinks, oh, the calamity started in May when you
right.
showed up, but it was actually
Right.
Eye Patch Girl, whose name I suddenly lost,
Mikasi.
Mikasi. It was actually her sister dying the month before.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Which
secret sister that nobody
nobody
knew
knows, right? Because she was given to her aunt to be her kid, and her parents aren't really her parents. And if they'd given the other daughter around, her name would have been Mikasi.
about. Yeah.
Because you can't change the name, which I mean, it's a great little. I guess that's funny in the middle of a very serious story.
Yeah. They needed some levity there. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So she has a secret sister she's been hanging out with, and then she died. And so it seems like that's the first one because it's a relative of one of the kids in the class. And that's when it started, and it started before a transfer student came in. So,
Yeah.
so anyway,
Basically, they find a lost tape. Okay, so why they find the tape? There's a guy, they look at the records and they say, okay, this one year, it stopped halfway through. Like, there were
which
deaths.
is weird.
Weird, but there's a guy that we can go and talk to about it. And so they go for a beach episode. Because the guy works at a beach resort, right? So, like, okay, well, let's go have a beach episode.
And because it's anime.
And because it's anime.
So we get some, haha, they can't catch any fish to eat. How embarrassing.
Right.
And-
Well, I mean, you're playing it off, but there is a very noticeable buildup of like levity there, where it's like, oh, they're able to relax. They've left the town borders. Look at them just having their fun, and then a kid dies while they're out there, and they're like, oh shit, mine's broken. You can't actually escape the curse.
Right.
So like while it's definitely anime and they wanted to have a beach episode, they work with it. They make it actually mean something rather than just like, okay, we're just dicking around at the beach for an episode.
It's just a totally frivolous time. Yeah. I
right,
agree.
right. A total fan service moment where you put all these characters in bikinis.
Right. Which.
But
anyway.
yeah, yeah. But they eventually get to talk to the guy, and the calamity has slowly been working on him, where he's forgotten what he's done in the class to stop the calamity all those years ago. But he says he left a tape somewhere in the old classroom for them to find to maybe work out how he stopped it.
I think all he says is I left something.
Right. He
He's
doesn't.
not even that verbose about it.
Right. Yeah. That's true. You're not wrong.
Yeah. So they kind of have to extrapolate and hope that what he did was he left something somewhere for them that is of use to them, but they don't know.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
And he's from the same class as protagonist's aunt, right?
yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's how they come across him is they ask her what she knows. And she's able to name drop.
this guy. And
Yeah.
like actually she really kind of name drops an event as well. Like they go up to this mountain lodge. Lodge is maybe too mountain
Shrine,
mansion.
they call
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they go up and there's a shrine there and they pray and maybe they're like praying saved it. But they're not really sure what happens because the librarian teacher, he's like, yeah, other classes have gone up to the mountain and prayed and it did not work for them. So whatever it wasn't strictly praying. But
Right.
they kind of agree that like, well, we're gonna take this trip anyway. You know, we're gonna give it a go. Something there happened, and they find this tape in the old classroom, and it's this guy's confession that while they were on the mountain praying, a storm broke out. A kid died. They were all scared, running down this mountain in the rain. Kids was tripping and falling, and you know,
Continuing to die despite the fact they've already prayed. Yeah.
right, getting struck by lightning, and he gets into a fight with one of the kids,
Yep.
and pushes him, I think is what happens, and he falls on a root and impales himself. And
Yeah.
he just kind of leaves it for the night. He's like, oh, fuck, I need to leave. And it turns out that kid was the dead kid. And immediately, like the next day, nobody but him can remember this kid, and the calamity is over.
And he goes back to see if the body's there, and it's gone.
gone.
There's no blood. There's nothing. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And he's the only one that remembers this kid even existed. He keeps asking, like, "Hey, remember this kid? Have you seen him? Like, who are you talking about?
There's
I
no
don't
one.
know anybody with that name." And
Yeah.
he's like, "The only reason I remember is because I was so intimately involved in his death, right?"
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have the show does have like an issue where it's like, oh no, here's a big problem, and then the episode ends, and by the time they start the next one, the problem solved. They break the tape that this warning is on. It's like, oh no, I guess we can get this tape repaired, and then they start the next episode, the tape is repaired off screen. Which, come on, just don't break the tape. It's fine.
Seriously, it was a weird decision.
Yeah.
And what's cool too is that as this taped confessional is there, every time he says the name of the dead kid, it like censors.
And
Yeah.
senses are like, it would be kind of like be bleeded out or something if it was in English. It'd be a little more explicit because I don't know. It's a little hard to hear when it's like being redacted in the actual VA's lines. You know,
Right.
Just for me, I felt like if it wasn't for it being redacted in the subtitles, I would have totally missed it that he was trying to say someone's name.
Oh, interesting. I could hear it. It was like a that they would throw in there
it's
at
just
the point.
It's just very short, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So his name was like Abe or something.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I guess it's possible, but like a lot of the other kids' names are quite long. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So he's like, that was it. I'm forgetting though over time, so I'm taping this, and hopefully someone can find it. It can help him down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens next is basically a small section of the kids have listened to this tape and they believe that if they kill the dead kid, they can free themselves, and that leads friends to fighting friends and making poor decisions. But then the tape gets out, and essentially some of the kids believe that they figure out that eye patch girl is definitely the dead girl, and you know, some people think other things, and the students start just like murdering each other. Like they all are very tense and on the edge, and I kind of get it, but it's definitely a thing that just happens because it has to happen, you know?
Right.
Right. I can totally buy that, like, oh, well, these kids have been like living under the threat of that they're going to die. Like this has been plaguing on them for months and months and months, and they've really built up, and they've been given an outlet that maybe if they just kill this girl, they get to live, their family gets to live.
But also, other people are being accused.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are other people that are getting hunted and killed because they think they're the dead person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our comic relief kind of blustery kid in the class.
Mm.
He says, I was having a conversation with this other kid in the class. We've been in the same school since we were kids, and he couldn't remember some of the stuff
Right.
that we did when we were kids, and I think he's the dead guy. So I
Right. I pushed him
tried to
off.
kill him.
Yeah.
It's like, holy what? You guys
Yeah.
are nuts.
Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, the two caretakers of this building that they're all staying in lose their minds. Apparently, they were a relative of one of the kids who died, and their mental state had been in decline for quite some time and decided to cut the landline basically and trap a class full of high school kids here and then burn the building down with them inside it, which is really dark. Just aside, it's like in any show that would be horrific to like, oh, that's wild that came out of nowhere. That's such an awful end to any story potentially. But to then sandwich that into like the murder mystery that's going on
Yeah.
feels a little excessive sometimes. It just
The show goes off the rails on those last two episodes. Like, yeah, the hotel's on fire. The lady's gone crazy. She's trying to kill everyone. She's already murdered her husband. Several students are like, I know who the dead kid is. I'm going to kill them. And they're all hunting each other. The building's collapsing.
Oopsie.
It's a total mess.
Yeah. And basically, in the course of one night, we get a hunt and chase sequence with Eye Patch Girl and not dead guy, Ichiko-kun. And we get a series of unfortunate events where people die trying to kill her. We get a person with a knife slipping out a window. We get a person strung up by cabling. Lightning strikes and all of the windows blow in. And we get a girl thoroughly impaled with glass throughout her body when the main two characters literally standing next to her are fine.
Plot armor, man. It's good.
Yeah.
So good.
And so basically everyone's dying. Like, this is a massacre of an ending. Yeah, I don't like May Mikasi. She's like, okay, I know who it is. I have to go and end this, and finds basically reveals who the dead person is. Do you want to do the honors of like who it actually is? Because
unnecessarily complex reveal of who the dead person is my entire take on this.
Because I feel like they did not, like, if you were paying attention at the very first episode, they totally tell you that his aunt is their assistant homeroom teacher, but that she is basically going to work as though they don't know each other. That she does her hair up differently, and is like acting in a role that is like very different. And so like, you immediately forget that his aunt at home and the homeroom teacher are not the same person, but they are.
Immediately. Like, never once was I like, oh yeah, that's Riku. Not once.
Right.
Yeah. So it turns out, protagonist aunt has driven up the mountain.
She was there with the class. They all came up together. She was there. They took a class photo out in front of this mountain lodge, and she was in it.
Right.
Yeah,
and so she's like pinned under some fallen trees or something. Again, a lot of lightning strikes around. She can't get out. Mikasi, everyone's got cell phones here in 1998 in Japan.
Yes, everyone does.
Everyone does. And protagonist like calls her and is like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm out back, but I figured out I found the dead person, but you really don't want to come out here."
Right.
I was like, "Okay, you can't say that. He's going to come out now." Like, there was no chance this was going to convince him to stay inside or just go on the other side of the building.
Right.
Yeah. So it turns out, the dead person wasn't a student in the class. It was this assistant adjunct teacher.
Right, which, I mean, May points out a lot of really great points that like nobody else would consider. None of the other classes have assistant homeroom teachers. None of them. That
Yeah,
it's
but
only this class.
I know, but it can't be an entirely foreign concept, or the Japanese audience would be like, "What the hell is an homeroom teacher?" Right?
Probably, yeah. Like that would have given
Yeah.
it away to like the viewer, but it's definitely something that should have been noticed. But like, it's the collective memory fucking of the calamity that like covers it up. And she kind of admits that she maybe did some like digging. That it was actually the faculty room that was missing a desk this time. That's why there was a perfect number of desks in the classroom. But it was
Right.
the faculty room didn't have have a desk for this lady,
Right.
which so Koichi kills his aunt and like ends the calamity, right?
With like an ice pick. Where do they get this thing?
It was a pickaxe, like a mining pickaxe. It's like I've got one of those in
Yeah.
WoW. You just well, brutal. And
Yeah, tough way to go.
it is kind of dark that there's like, oh, these kids just now will, like these two specifically will have the memory of murdering this woman who's trapped under a fallen tree who didn't exist, and it's like, yeah, but you killed her. Like she was
Who's
alive.
begging for her life. Yeah.
Which I guess it's maybe something of a reprieve that the calamity slowly takes its memories back as well. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will have lifelong issues. But
I mean, you still remember all the other kids who died, right?
oh yeah, all the
So
other
they're-
kids who killed each other. Yeah.
They're fucked anyway. Like this one death isn't going to add too much.
Yeah, he still got like stabbed in the arm and stuff.
Yeah. So then the other clues are like he's living with his grandma and grandpa, and the grandpa is like mourning his mom who died in like in childbirth, really soon after he was born. In
Childbirth to him, yeah, and
Right.
his aunt, his like both of his daughters are dead, and the only time we really see the grandfather, he is at the family shrine,
Yep.
just mortified, being like, I'm so very tired of funerals.
Yeah.
It's a very subtle clue that both of his kids are dead, you know?
Yep. And so he very specifically mentions that mom is dead, and then he kind of trails into an Poreku, who's the aunt. And you obviously they want you at the end to be like, oh, right, she's dead too.
So,
But you can also obviously initially interpret that as, oh, she lost her sister. What a
sister.
terrible thing, right?
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So a little tricky there, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So then, okay. So Azakawa, the redhead head of countermeasures in the
Yep.
class,
Mm-hmm.
she keeps saying that she has, like, shook hands with our protagonist, but they've never met before. They don't remember meeting under any circumstances.
Well, okay, so when he was in the hospital at the start of the episode, start of the season, she goes and shakes his hand then. Give him like,
And
here's the
says,
homework
this
that
is
you made."
familiar. Have you lived in town before? And
Right,
he goes, no.
She's very clearly trying to ascertain whether or not he is from the area and be like,
Right.
are you a ghost that died in the area? You know?
Right.
But at the end of the show, what we're realizing is that they have met before, that he came back a year and a half ago for his aunt's funeral, and she threw a bottle at him.
Yep.
Because she was upset with someone else's death, like her brother died.
Her brother, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's where they met. But because it was connected to the death of the aunt, the calamity erased the memory of that meeting from both of their minds.
Right.
So that's really weird. Anyway.
So
It's
there's
tough because it's like,
they
killing the dead person does fix the problem.
for this year.
Right. But
Next year it's gonna happen all over again.
right. And how many more people died because this solution came into play? If they hadn't done anything, fewer people would have died.
It's possible, yeah.
That is the dark message of this entire show. It's trying to stop it. Probably definitely killed more people than just letting it run its course.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. I love it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. It's a good show. I really like this show. I'm glad I rewatched it. I don't think I've seen it since like 2014. So, it's good. I think I might even now go and read the novel it's based off. Although I'm looking at this, maybe the novel is the novelization of the show, and there might be a manga or something. Just looking at like the print, like when it says it was released on Amazon. But yeah, I
Right.
might go and like have another crack at this, see what else like they do with it. What's maybe was left out of the anime for timing and
Right.
spacing. Yeah.
It's it is. It's Azakawa who dies from the window exploding with the lightning.
Yeah, that's
I forgot that was her. Yeah. Just so many kids die at the end of this show.
yeah. And I would like to complain that like okay, Koichi is like, oh, there's a fire in the dining hall. Don't go in there. And the first kid who's like, there's two kids standing by being like, he said there was a fire. I smell smoke, but I don't see any flames. Huh, let's look at the dining hall. Uh, they open it, and it's like, yes, if you have a fire contained in a room and then you open it to a flood of oxygen that it didn't otherwise have, you can get a kind of fireball explosion coming out of that and kill that kid. You do not get a house laden with explosives that'll explode every 5 minutes. That house pops off dozens of times in those 2 episodes.
You get a backdraft. But you don't get explosions like you're storing propane under every bed in that place.
Right.
Yeah. But for dramatic effect, though, come on.
But for dramatic effect.
Also, there's another thing is they don't understand how house fires work because the hotel's like 80% on fire and people are like walking around inside it. I'm like,
Right.
you're all dead from
There's
smoke
smoke
inhalation
inhalation.
about half an hour ago. Like,
Oh,
none
yeah.
of you are still alive. I'm sorry. I know you're dodging the fire and stuff, but there is so much smoke in there. You're all
Right.
dead.
Right.
Yeah. Good times.
Good times.
Anywho, yeah. Well, and so then our heroes take the tape that led to the deaths of all of their friends and put it back where it was and say, good luck, future years.
Well, okay, so they do kind of address that. They re-record another tape and they put it on a one of the tiny little diskettes that only like the PSP ever used.
The mini disc.
The mini disc, which is
Yeah.
great. But they re-record it and they're okay, here's what you can maybe do, but please, for the love of God, sit down and talk about it with all of your friends to work it out. Like, they address it. Give them that.
They do, but once it gets out that you have to kill the dead kid in your class and nobody knows who the dead kid is, that's just Lord of the Flies immediately.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I loved too the handshaking thing. It's like there's this rumor that the dead have really cold hands, and it's like, but then they're like, but if it was that easy, we would have figured out a long time ago.
Yeah, what was I going to say? I do feel vaguely worried that now that there have been so many deaths this year, that and the calamity had spread not only to the classroom but to the faculty room, that this thing is going to be utterly unbreakable in the future because it's like, well, it's no longer contained to this one room. The veil is thinned so much that it could be other classrooms or other faculty rooms. That it's like, how do you actually track this anymore? Because
Right.
for like the last 25 years, it's been a dead student, and now it's a student who died and came back, but as a teacher.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the other thing I want to talk about, Reiku's death. She's like jogging along,
Random
this
mugging,
river?
basically. Yeah.
but did the mugger look like backing up a little bit? They're looking at the class photo with Misaki's magic eye, and she can see the dead kid, and it's kind of this like twisted smile. It's not like a normal face. It's very much like a ghost zombie kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I felt like the way they drew that mugger, it had the same kind of like really twisted upturned grin going. And then he knifes her and like drops her in the river. And I was like, is that the entity
Motoring her.
developing? Yeah, like having a direct hand in this, you know?
I don't think so.
You
Because
didn't. That didn't really stand out to you at all.
no, I don't think so. I think it was a random death. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like if it was like this entity trying to self perpetuate itself by giving it more dead people to play with,
Right.
I think the show should have touched on that a little more expressly. But like, because the key is that May saw her die, uh,
Right.
but had forgotten. Like the calamity had blocked it because obviously you go, I saw our teacher die once, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. That'd ruin everything. Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anywho, I think that's it for
Uh-huh.
another.
I mean,
I
what?
like. I still maintain
Yeah.
you're not gonna figure it out unless you have someone with a magic doll's eye. So like,
Right.
just leave town, man. Pack up, get out of there, and if you can't, just cross your fingers. That's the rest bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, I was looking at the list of episodes just as we're talking. There's actually an OVA. There's another episode that came out,
Hmm.
and judging by like the brief description, it mentions why Eye Patch Girl doesn't ride Ferris wheels. Because at the end, he's like, "Hey, did you want to go check out that carnival over there? We can go ride the Ferris wheel." And she's like, "No, I don't do that."
Yeah.
So that episode might be out there somewhere that we could watch if you wanted a little bit more.
Coochie and Mikasi go to the amusement park. Sounds kind of wholesome.
Kind of. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, that's another.
It is another. It's good stuff.
It's good stuff.
I mean, I still think unnecessarily twisty. Just make it one of the students. Like,
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I
I,
know it has the familial connection with our protagonist, and that adds a little oomph to it.
I really like the twist that all these kids are sitting there killing each other like absolute barbarians, only for it to be none of them. Like,
And it's none of them.
yeah. And not only that, but like, there's a chance the teacher was already dead because she gets like knocked out trying to defend Eye Patch Girl, like doing her teaching duty. And the students
Right.
are like, "No, we should kill her." And she like takes a blow, and you're like, "Oh crap, the teacher's down." Like the kids, who's left to like restrain these kids? You know?
Right. Nobody, apparently.
Nobody. That's the point.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, and librarian teacher guy, there's kid has an asthma attack. And his inhaler's out, and he doesn't have a backup, and it's like, what the hell, kid? What is wrong with you?
right.
And so he's not around. You would have
Right.
been a nice person to like kind of rein these kids in a little bit.
And he does come back and then rein them in, right?
Yeah.
As best he can. But unfortunately, there's too many kids for him to like babysit all at once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That is true.
Is this? I'm sorry. I was just like, I really enjoy this. I'm thinking I might actually buy the physical book to have. Like, that's how much I really enjoyed this. But I'm just like, is it just one book? Is it multiple? Like, because I'm so used to like an anime being based on like a 10-volume manga, you know, or a light novel series that's like 15 books. And I'm like, I can
Right.
only find one, and it doesn't list itself as like a part one or a volume one. So I'm like, maybe I just need to buy one book. I can get away with storing one book, because if it's 10, I'm not doing that. I'll buy the digital version, but one,
Yeah.
I can do one.
Right.
Anyway, to the Warhammer.
That's another. Yeah.
To
To the Warhammer.
Whoop whoop, Warhammer time. And we read Praetorian of Dorn by John French.
We did. And it was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It's very Alpha Legion-y.
It is. There's kind of like the setup that this is going to be a book about the Imperial Fists for you, and while there's definitely a lot of Imperial Fist point of view, all the things that matter are done by the Alpha Legion.
Well, except for one thing.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it's so Alpha Legion. I love it. Like, it all starts off with this incredibly intricate 27-step plan involving 5 different teams to get onto Terra to go to the Primarch statues at the Imperial Palace, blow them all up except for Dorn's and Alfarius's,
Yeah.
and get out.
To send a message.
Done. Like, it's very, very, very Alpha Legion.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
later in the book, they're like, it wasn't just about that. We wanted to see how you would react to an incursion like this, like what your response was in different aspects of the military and of the Legion.
There's intelligence gathering going on during all of it. It's not just a show of like, it's very like Ocean's 11, like where they need to like leave a message, you know?
Yeah.
Which is fun on itself, but like, there's more to it. It's like, okay, yeah, there's more to it. So basically it happens and Dorn is like, okay, we can't let the entire Imperium or the Imperial Palace be going to like red alert because then the terrorists win, I guess. So you, my son, my favorite son, what was his name? Archimus. You need to do this by yourself. You need to like go and flush them out alone. And Archimus, you're so old. You're so very old with your robot limbs. But please go and do this. And then he does.
You've been around since the beginning.
Well, since the beginning of, like, I don't know, is he on Inwit? Like, we get him, like, his conversion to the Space Marines.
We do.
But that's, like, it feels very recent to Dorn being rediscovered by the Emperor. So I don't think he's not a Terran born, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
I do like we get his backstory, though. He's like the street rat who's running around with this gang and gets picked up. And they figure out that, like, he's this insanely independent spirit. Like, he's running with this gang, but he doesn't belong with them. He's not loyal to them.
Right.
He's just like, his whole thing is, you can't break me. Like, no matter what you do to me, my spirit remains unbroken. And Dorn's like, that'd make a good Space Marine. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Life is defiance and nothing else. He's like,
yeah.
I like those qualities. A+ kid.
Like, he's consistently getting Space Marine augmetics being put into him, like, without any anesthesia. He's just like, screw you guys, I hate you all. And they're, like, lifting out his liver. It's some crazy stuff, dude. He was nuts when he was younger. He's a lot older and more circumspect and, like, less crazy now. But
Right. He spends 150 years designing fortresses with a wax tablet and a stylus. And, like, that breeds some, like, I don't know, humility, some like calm and some stature into him, I guess.
Yeah, 150 years is going to change anyone, definitely. Yeah. So what I like too about Alpha Legion's plan here at the start of the book is part of it involves like digging up these buried dead Space Marines that have been on Terra for like 10 years, like before the Heresy. The Alpha Legion's like, let's see some Space Marines down there. We might need them later.
Right.
Freaking Alpha Legion. They are the best.
Yeah.
They make me laugh so much.
Not only that, but they have code words to like psycho indoctrinate them on awakening. Be like, what are our mission parameters? Oh, it's Orpheus. Like, okay, I know I need to do this. It's like they had planned for several different potential outcomes here.
So good. And I love, like, Dorn. Does he ever figure that out? Like, maybe Archimus figures it out. But somebody with the fists is like, they were there before the Heresy.
Right.
It's like, Alpha Legion and Alpha Legion.
Right. Yeah. And because here's the thing, a lot of, like, even the Imperial Fists don't know the history of the Alpha Legion either. Like, they go to the moon, they go to Luna to talk to the Selenites, and I don't think you've known about the Selenites before. Like, you've never heard of anything.
No, there were moon people? No.
So they are like gene witches, basically, right? And the history you get here is pretty accurate, where it's like the Emperor needed gene forges to increase production, and so instead of building them, he took Luna and like forced them to do it, right?
Which it is very importantly stated, the Emperor could have done it on his own, but slower.
Right.
But he wanted to do it
Fast.
faster.
Yeah.
So he enslaves them effectively. And they make this point. They're like, yeah, we did it willingly. The choice was do it or die.
Right.
So come on.
What
Like,
kind of a
let's be
choice is
real
that?
about this. Yeah. Yeah.
But fun fact, so the taking of the Selenar station on Luna, the 16th Legion cut their like all engines and power in their ship and sailed in under no power, while like the 7th Legion, the Imperial Fists and the Ultramarines like did a frontal attack, and then they docked their like depowered ship and broke in and started killing them all. And within like 7 hours, the Selenites, these ladies on the moon, called the Emperor and been like, hey, call off your wolves. And that's how the Lunar Wolves got their name.
Ah, because they were acting like wolves on Luna.
Well, I don't know if they were really acting like wolves. They were just described as wolves by people on Luna. So that's how they got their name, the Lunar Wolves.
But also, they are wolves. So, like, anyway.
Are they wolves?
And whatever. Anywho.
Anyway, yeah, and like there's an Imperial Fist here who's like, yeah, but you guys helped with like the first lot of the legions, not the later ones. The Alpha Legion were around way later, right? And she's like, I guess. This Andromeda 17 character, who I really enjoyed everything with her.
Me too. She's great. I like when she's doing the interrogation of that one dude.
With the water.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to explain it. She's got this dude in a room, and the temperature's up, and he's all strapped down, and like,
he's thirsty.
Yeah, and he's thirsty. And gosh dang it, Akamanda's character, is he the one that's there?
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, he's all squirmy about this. He's like, I don't know how we're treating our prisoner. This makes me feel weird. She's like, you will shoot 47,000 people in the face to attain your goals, but making this guy hot and thirsty in this room freaks you out? What is wrong with you people?
She thoroughly believes that the Space Marines and the Primarchs are like gene-bred creatures, not people.
Yeah.
Like, she thoroughly despises their existence.
And especially the Primarchs, because she specifically refers to Dorn as something like that, a creature.
Sure, yeah.
And one of the Iron Fists is like, okay, I'm not cool with that, but also we need you, so I'm not going to kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just a big thing of like Alfarius and Omegron trying to poke at the solar system and what Dorn has set up here in the last 10 years, 5 or 6 years since the Heresy.
Right. Yeah.
And just try to see what his responses are and figure out how to invade it and how to wipe it out effectively.
Yeah, intelligence gathering, basically.
Yeah. And so, I mean, not to skip like the entire book, but it comes down to this face-to-face battle between Dorn and Alfarius. And what's really interesting to me, like the most interesting thing about this entire book, is that Alfarius and Dorn are fighting hand to hand in this little, storage room.
Right.
And Alfarius goes, let me see if I can find this.
Go for it.
I've got it here. He says, I did this so you would understand, shouted Alfarius, so that you would see that you cannot win. I am not here to kill you, brother. I am not here for Horus. I am here to give you victory. I know the enemy. I know your weaknesses and theirs. I know the truth. I can give you victory. And Dorn's like, don't care. Like, he doesn't listen to any of this.
I mean,
not to a tiny bit.
Would you? Like, this is the guy that broke into the Imperial Palace, has declared for Horus, killed a bunch of people, killed a bunch of your sons, and at
Yeah.
the very last minute is like, hey, I actually did this so we could be friends. Like, there's no way in the world you'd buy that.
It's not so much that we could be friends, but like they've then we get some flashbacks too, right? Alfarius and Dorn have had this, they're loggerheads at this concept. Alfarius is like, wars are won in the dark, in the back rooms, sneaking in the back door. Like, that's how you win wars. And Dorn's like, no, obviously you march forward, you build fortifications, you're very upfront about your intentions the whole time. That's how you win a war.
Right.
And Dorn thinks Alfarius and the Alpha Legion are sneaky and underhanded and terrible and bad. And Alfarius is like, if we can kill 10 people to end a war, and you need to kill 50,000 to end the same war, how are we the bad guys, right?
But Dawn makes the point that it's like, yeah, but you killed all the people who could have ruled the planet, and now you've sowed the seeds of just instability here. Like, it's like, sure, we might have killed 50,000 people to win the war, but we could have installed them their own as rulers to keep them pacified and loyal to a degree. What you've done will just breed rebellions for decades and centuries to come.
Right.
So
But at
they,
the same time, Alfarius is like, or your way was to wage war here for the next 5 years and wipe out millions of them in straight up honorable combat. Like, is that any better? You know?
Dawn says
It's
yes.
like, yeah, and Dorn says yes.
Yeah.
So that's like, I get that Dorn doesn't respect Alfarius' way of doing things, but Alfarius is making an extremely good point here. He's like, look what I did. All of your defenses, I got through them, man. I got through them by being sneaky and underhanded. And you think you can win this war? You think you can defeat Horus by being straight up and upfront and honorable about this, and you can't. Like, let me show you how to win this thing. And Dorn's like, nope, don't care. I'm out. And I'm just like, dude, like, he's making an extremely good point here. It's an object lesson. I mean, it's because that's the other thing. Sure, for all the people that died with what Alfarius did, it could have been so much worse. It could have been so much worse. Alfarius was making a point, was proving a point, was trying, yes, out of pride, and maybe he's wrong, but he firmly believes that Dorn would be better by being sneaky and incorporating some subterfuge into what he's doing here. And
So,
Dorn is just not interested.
well, so even with if you are sneaky, Dawn's job and role is defense of Terra. Like, there's a bit of subterfuge where he's like, "Oh, we need to tell like 2/3 of our defending forces that to be prepared to move out because we're gonna go on the offensive," which
Right.
does not happen, right?
Right.
So he is already kind of sneaky. He's telling Archimus to go and do this by himself, but he can't give him all the answers. And like it shows that in the flashbacks that Archimus and like 20 other worlds were all told that like you need to defend this place. You need to build fortresses here to hold this place, and they're not really told why. That like you just need to rebuild is basically because like
Yeah.
the Imperial Fists thing is that they leave places. What's the phrase? It's like they leave the planets they've conquered so tightly held, as though they were within the Imperium's fist, and that's how they get their name, right? Like the worlds
Right.
they take never rebel. That's
There's
the
no
point.
compliance issues. Yeah.
There's no compliance. They become bastion worlds. They're not centers of culture like the Ultramarines are, but they're firmly held. And so he goes, "Hey, all of you like war architects, go out, build fortresses, fortify these worlds." But he doesn't tell them that, oh, you have to do a really good job because, well, maybe there's a giant orc horde that might come and kill you, right?
Right. Right.
So he is already slightly sneaky. And while he was like, no, shut the fuck up, Alfarius, die, I don't think that means moving forward he won't still be sneaky in some ways. He just won't be like, I need a massive spy, I need a legion-sized spy network, you know?
Yeah.
I think he finds more of a middle ground.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saying maybe he does accept the lessons of Alfarius, but is not interested in forgiving him for what he did anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Which I
And I
mean,
mean, also the Alpha Legion is involved in this harrowing concept. So
mm,
it's not like Alfarius was just teaching an object lesson here. Like,
right.
there was a very planned out, very specific attempt to cripple the solar system.
Right.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
what's the point? I don't know. What
okay.
is Alfarius doing, and what does he want? That's the question all the time, isn't it?
Questions you will be asking for the next 10 millennia.
Right.
So here's the real question: was that a loyalist Alfarius using the troops he had available, who will maybe do bad things? Maybe he wakes them, gives them these orders that have been set like decades ago, or who knows how long, to vaguely achieve something that they need to show Dorn that, like, hey, you need to be looking out for this stuff too. Or was that a traitor Alfarius trying to get under his skin and being like, look at where we can hit you, where you like, we can hit you where you least suspect it, kind of a thing.
It doesn't feel like gloating to me. Like the
I
way it's written, like
I mean, I feel like the actions of specifically killing, destroying the statues in the hegemon of the Primarchs or whatever, is gloating, right? That's getting into a
yeah,
place that, in theory, only the Primarchs are really allowed to go. You know,
right.
that's
Right.
that is basically up there of like we could get to the Emperor if we want.
Right. Right. Absolutely. But like, I don't know. Whatever. Whatever. He's dead now, and I was like, oh no, a Primarch fight where both of them are gonna walk away. It's gonna be great. And
And
then no,
no,
Dorn is like, nope, that's not happening.
nobody. Yeah, I thought you'd like that when we got to this because there are a
It's
lot
been
of
a
Primarch.
while.
It's been a while. Yeah, there are a lot of Primarch fights where it's like, oh no, and then my men cover me with like their bolters, and I was able to retreat. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, no, Alfarius straight up dies. I mean, you do have to ask yourself, was that really Alfarius?
Well, considering we get an Omegron scene where he's like, "Huh, my other half is dead.
Dead,
Yeah, I
or
think so.
you think so? But what if that was Omega and this is actually Alfarius?
Well, I mean, we get the point where Horus is calling and Omegron, and they're like, hey, where's Alfarius? And Omegron's like, I don't know.
Oh, I guess I'm him.
Yeah. And then he answers the call as Alfarius, and it says,
I knew that these words would damn me for the rest of time or something.
the
Yeah.
jest has become. Gosh dang it.
Find the quote.
Yeah, I got it here. No, I went too far. No, here it is. Realizing the words he was about to say would trap him for the rest of existence, the jest turned into mocking wrath. Sorry, mocking truth. Mocking truth.
Cool.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're pretty well telegraphing that Alfarius is dead.
Yeah.
Although, again, the author makes a big point of saying there are a lot of people intentionally out there who look like for reasons of trickiness.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that we didn't really cover, but that's the basic concept.
That's the basic. Yeah, there's a lot that happens in this book that I don't think is really pertinent to talk about. It's like we could sit there and go through every plot point, but it's like I don't think we need to. None of that stuff really needs to be talked about because it's really like the beginning and the end, and that's what matters. And that is so on the point for Alpha and Omega. You know, it's the beginning. It's the two parts of the book that matter, and it's the beginning and the end.
Yeah, it's very much a big picture book.
Yeah, and John French does a wonderful job, I think.
Yeah,
So,
I think so too. The afterword has some good stuff in there.
oh, please tell me.
He talks about how he found out about the Horus Heresy, but like, you know, he didn't really write anything for a while. They let him do some little short story, and then that got him into the door to do an actual one. And he goes, so so he's in the room with the other writers, and they go, "Any ideas?" And he goes, "The Imperial Fists and Rogel Dorn." I replied. They nodded. By this point, this answer was expected to almost to the point that if I had said anything else, I think they would have been shocked because he does love the fists. But then he says, "But against the Alpha Legion and Alfarius," I went on. That got their attention. In the solar
The
system, I added. So yeah, I like that. They're funny in there afterwards a lot of the time.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So what are we reading next then?
Where is the old pinned graphic of doom? There it is. I see you.
I see you.
No, open in browser. Thanks. All right. So we went over here in the yellow, right? Yep. Praetorian of Dorn. So Duty Waits is the next one officially.
That is a short story?
Okay. Does look smaller.
Yeah, if it's got that cut off top left corner, that's a short story.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all right.
So like, it also says it's from book 52, by the looks of it. Which,
that's what it says.
I mean, both of the next ones are book 52.
Yeah.
But I'm like wondering where else book 52. So this kind of falls into Master of Mankind, which we've actually already read. Like we jumped forward for that. And then after that, there's a couple other book 52. So we could just do anthology book 52.
Sure.
Which is when this, what is it called? Heralds of the Siege.
Heralds of the Siege.
There are 16 books.
16 little books in that one book.
16 little books, yep. Oh, this has a book that I've actually read already in it. I mean, I think I've read a couple of these. But one that I remember is called The Painted Count. Which, if you remember that name, because you've read that name before. Do you know who the Painted Count is?
No.
The Painted Count was Gendor Scrivok of the Night Lords. So you get more Night Lords. He's the guy who maybe ends up with a cursed sword that he can't get rid of. Like he.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, this is 52 of 54?
Yeah, this is like one of the last books to be released in the Horus Heresy series. Yeah.
Dang. So how many of the other books are we planning on reading?
Of the anthologies or the main ones? The anthologies, I don't know. We should probably do Garrow. There's a kind of important thing that you'll need to be filled on. That'll happen if we just skip it.
Okay.
But I mean, I think we should do definitely some more of the main novels, which if you wanted to do that instead of this anthology, since this is such a late anthology, it might spoil some of those books.
Too late, I already got it.
Well, I mean, fortunately, you can buy more than one book, Falcon.
Oh, that's true. I can
Yeah.
read them in whatever order I want.
I think we should definitely do Angel Exterminatus, Path of Heaven.
Is that one book?
No, those are two. Those are two books.
Okay.
What is this over here?
Oh, yeah, all the way back to 23.
Yeah. We should probably do the Crimson King, Ruin Storm, Wolfsbane, Titan Death, Slaves to Darkness, Buried Dagger. I think we should definitely do those main books.
Okay.
Because that leads us right into Siege of Terror. We should be like right there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I think that'll actually be pretty much everything. We'll have only skipped like the Salamanders and the Raven Guard because they're kind of meh from what I know. But we can always go back to meh. Yeah. We can always go back to them if we feel like it. Oh, there's another book that we should read called Vengeful Spirit. I'll have to fit that in there somewhere as well.
Okay.
Yep. And that should set us up for just mercifully a string of straightforward books. Like, no more jumping over. It's all
pretty chronological.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what this week then?
Angel Exterminatus, because I
Alright.
think that's the one that's the furthest back that we can do.
Okay.
I believe this is the Emperor's Children that we're following on from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we get some Iron Warrior stuff,
Yeah.
which we have not gotten
Not a lot of.
any of.
It's a good point. Maybe I don't think we've gotten much of that.
Yeah. Okay, good. That'll be nice.
Cool.
All right, got it. Done.
Yep.
Okay, good. Let's wrap it up then. It was a
Yeah.
jam-packed episode for sure.
Big episode. Sweet.
All right, good.
We'll be back usual time next week. Yep.
So 8 days from now, we'll get our next episode. But thanks for hanging out for another edition of the Falcon Paladin Hour. You can support us at falconpaladin.store by buying merch and also going to patreon.com/Somicron and pledging there. Twitch.tv/Somicron is where we do this live, and the VODs go to youtube.com/@Somicron. So check that out as well. And yeah, we'll be back in 8 days. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to us rant about all sorts of great stuff, and we will catch you next time.
All right. Bye.